At the time that I got that role, if I remember correctly, I had pushed out north of 2005 applications for sure.
Whoa.
Now, the other thing that happened was I went very aggressive with my application as well. Very aggressive meant that on every day I will do somewhere around, the goal was to do 30, right? Every single day. Now, there were days that I would even do more, but not less for sure.
It's just work. We're trying not to take it too seriously.
But really, it is your career and you need to take ownership of it.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Career Diaries for 6. We are thrilled to be back with a special guest speaker joining us. This person here is my guy. We're just talking that, our friendship was formed from like a storming stage, and we've maintained such a close friendship. Shout out to Dami as well. Dami is an avid listener. Dami, we appreciate you. Dami is Simi's wife. Today we are actually talking about an interesting topic, something we've named resilience, rejection, and resumes. As you know, this is in the series we've called Landing the Offer. Today we're talking to someone who comes with a wealth of experience from his home country. And I know he moved to Canada a while back. And he had gotten to a certain level in his home country in his field of endeavor, if you like. I would like to introduce our guest speaker today, my friend, my guy. His name is Simi. Simi, welcome to Career Diaries for 6, and we'll just hand over to you to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Dickens and Bukola, for having me here this day. I mean, I really appreciate the opportunity to be part of this series. My name is Simi Bolaniran. Been in Canada for about 3.5 years now. Most of my experiences have been in product management, some bit of it in business analysis and project management, solo entrepreneurship as well. But a big portion of it has been in product management. And for the most part as well, I've been in financial services. So this is banking, fintech, payments, gateways, all those type of things. And that's where I've been. My last 2 roles before we moved here in 22, I had VP roles. I had for business, for product. And yeah, I mean, moving to Canada, it's a different experience itself. And I imagine that's some of the things we'll be talking about today. And again, it's my pleasure to be here speaking with both of you. I look forward to the chat as well. I look forward to, just connecting with the audience.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Simi. We're very happy to have you. Bukola, do you want to start or should I?
Absolutely. I can start. Thank you so much, Simi. And yeah, we are, like Dickham said, we're really excited to have you here with us. I am really looking forward to just learning about your journey, your story, and all of that, and just hoping that it inspires some kind of courage and offer some encouragement to our listeners as well.
Yeah.
And we'll start off, based on that note. So we all know that in Canada, like maybe 1 out of 100. I don't even know that's the right statistic. Or 1 out of 1,000 of people that get into Canada and maybe they don't even maybe just one application and then they get the job, like just like that.
Yeah.
We know that that's not the case, and I think between when you came in and now, like it has even it's even worse, than what was experienced, maybe 3-4 years or 5 years ago even. So can you tell us a bit about what was that like? That whole journey of having to send countless of applications, the strategies that you use, the tailoring resumes, and all of those kind of stuff. Like, what was that like? And what would you say was now what helped you to, like, the right strategy that helped you to get noticed? Maybe getting called for interviews and eventually getting the job. What was that like?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I don't remember some of those experiences fondly, really. Just to backtrack a bit, when I was moving to this country, a few of my friends knew about it. They came in being one of them as well. And just off my my trajectory back in Nigeria, she had was one of those people that says, 3 months you get something, don't worry about it. And I had a few folks tell me that. And I got here, at first I kept my job from back home, so I still did that for some 6 months. So I didn't immediately get into it. We came April 22, and I didn't leave that role until October. Right? And even when I left the role, I was just taking my time. I wish I knew I should have started earlier, but I was just saying, let me rest. I didn't know that he was waiting for me now. So I I rested till December. Um, and in December, I started, obviously, end of the year, not too much was happening there, but really did kick off in January, right? And in my in my eyes, weeks turned to months, months to quarter. And it wasn't until April 24 that I started my first role, right?
What?
Yeah, and this was
Wow.
several applications. As at the time that I got that role, if I remember correctly, I had pushed out north of 2005 applications for sure. And not exaggerating. I mean, LinkedIn would tell you. So I knew LinkedIn was like 1.4, and then Indeed would be another like 1K-ish. And I was pushing out. So think about that. That was like a chore itself for me. One of the things that that did happen is it's very tough for you that your career in your previous country you've been quite successful. I don't remember having an interview. Well, I've had interviews for sure, but I wouldn't be looking or be sending my resume anywhere. It's usually someone saying, "Hey, you know what? We think this guy is doing a great job. You should speak to him." Those are the type of conversation I was having back then. Now to come to a world where you have to now start digging through, find folks calling you. Your hopes raised one moment, it's dashed the next moment. You just really try everything and just keep going through the roller coaster. I have a family, and you have to keep going, right? Pretty much. And so that was what my experience was like, and it was not. I think about it now, and I'm grateful that I went through it, and all that is behind me. But and I guess I'm sharing this bit at this detail is just for someone listening there to say, hey, you may be going through this, right? I know it's stuff, like I went through like several cycles, right? I'm a man of faith in my personal work, and so that helped. But regardless, it was still a lot to have to deal with, right? I think that last year in January, a few things changed, and it was then I had more of the opportunities I got. One of the things was I had gone on one site, and I don't remember the name too well, but it doesn't matter too much now because there are a couple of them, and I just ran my resume through this engine. It kind of helped to present it better. I liked it myself. The texting was better, the presentation was better, so that was good for me. I just like presentation of things. Now, the other thing that happened was I went very aggressive in my application as well. Very aggressive meant that on every day I will do somewhere around, the goal was to do 30, right? Every single day. Now, there were days that I would even do more, but not less, for sure. The question anyone may ask is, how are you able to do 30 and you still balance this with tailoring your resume? And it gets interesting, and I'll share what I think works for me. During some of the period where I was also trying to land this role, I started my master's program in a reputable school, great program, and so we had this career advancement team, something of that nature, and I remember speaking with them then, and this was June 23. And I've been applying since January. And I remember the lady saying to me that, oh no, you can't just continue to apply sporadically. You need to tailor your resume. She was walking me through all those things. But somewhere in me, I couldn't. What she was saying, I understood the logic, but I didn't think it was practical in the market I was in. I took a different approach, and my approach was, rather than tailoring my CV every single time or my resume every single time, there is an infinite list of skills any position and title is looking for. So, for example, I'm in product. My industry is in payment, right? And so I would say if someone was looking for a product manager in payments, there's a finite list of skills they're looking out for, right? And so I started building one resume for one role, so to speak. So I have a resume that spoke to that, so that subsequently I would not need to be tailoring, because I expect those keywords to be used amongst those roles, right? And at the end of the day, I had about 10 versions of my CV. Now, to say this, it's not that you're building resumes, that you're telling stories that you're not competent in. We pick up many skills in the course of our career that we don't even realize you do, right? So, and you can't put everything on one particular resume, otherwise it becomes too lengthy. And so it is calling out those skills for roles that are relevant. And so what I began to do is, rather than always tailoring, if I see one application that I like and I scan it through my resume and I don't see those keywords, then I incorporate it if there are things I've done before. So I'm looking at a job and it's talking about APIs, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've done some work with APIs. I'll add that to it so that next one can pick it, right? And that's not really possible for me then to be able to do, the numbers I was doing. So I wouldn't worry every single time about having to tailor my CV, and that did help. There are a few other things I can share, but that was very important to me out of the gate.
Wow. Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. As in, I had my jaw or my mouth open for a while because I was like, what?
Yeah.
Over 2,000 applications?
Yeah, that was
No.
Yeah.
No. Oh my days.
No, that
man. I know I've heard stories, but I've not heard this one. Like, no, I haven't heard this one. Wow.
No, this is something. But Simi, thank you for being open, because not a lot of people, because this is you being vulnerable. Not a lot of people would share this level of detail. So thank you for being open. A few things I picked from your story. One is at some point you realized you had to put structure to it, right? And so for you, that structure looked like sending a minimum of, you said 30, right, per day?
Yeah, correct.
Sending 30 per day. You had the opportunity to speak with like a career coach, career counselor or something, and then she gave you some tips, right? But you had to relate her tips to, like you said, it's logical, but it's not practical. I can't keep tailoring resumes for every single job role I think I'm suitable for. So what you did was, it was sort of like a strategy, right? How do I maintain sanity, but still be able to apply to as many jobs as possible? And so what you did was put in keywords, right? Keywords to tap into those job roles. So thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for sharing that, which sort of leads to our next question. So now you've gotten the resume right-ish to an extent. And then you start getting callbacks. Finally, people are like, okay, this person's CV is matching. Let's have a conversation with him. So what does that look like, interviewing in this job market? You said it yourself in the beginning, when you were in Nigeria, it was, people more or less poaching you to say, I like the work this guy is doing, let's speak with him. And here now it's sort of like a push mechanism. So when you did get to the point where you started interviewing, what were some differences you noticed? I've heard people say things like, Omo, I said something, and when the lady replied, I just knew she wasn't going to call me back. Or there was something about her tone, there was something about his body language, or there were words he used. I just knew, bye-bye, I'm not going to hear back from them. So what were some differences you noticed from your previous experience in terms of the interviewing space?
Yeah, a couple of things, right? The first thing that, especially back then, you could see it come through even for those that didn't explicitly say it. It would be conversations around, Canadian experience. So they would, even if they're not asking directly, they are trying to find out, so where have you worked? Do you have any, you will hear things like, do you have any experience in North America? I know you mean Canada, right? So I got a couple of those, right? And in my case as well, because I was also in school at some point during that period, there were questions around, how are you navigating those things? And they were a bit different, right? I kind of break out, how those conversations will come. So you're going to deal with the very interesting folks, oftentimes for these agencies, right?
Mm.
And the way those work is a company would reach out to multiple agencies and say, hey, I want to fill for this role. Now, those agencies will reach out to you if you probably applied in the past. And so they will just, call you up, bombard you, send you emails, and, just try to find out from you if you're on the market and you can do this, right? And where it gets even more interesting is they now start trying to negotiate your rate. What's your rate? Are you incorporated? Are you unincorporated? If you're incorporated, you offer a little more because you're going to deal with your taxes and things like that. And sometimes they try to lowball you too. I've seen folks, even sometimes, and I find it very interesting, they would, if you're filling most companies' application, you would see when they want to figure out your status, they would say, they will categorize Canadian citizen and PR jointly, right? Because they don't care to know the difference.
Yeah.
But I've actually seen some of these interesting agency recruiters would ask you, citizen or PR, like, what does it matter? And in my mind, I noticed a trail there, and my only logic to it is that they're just trying to use it to gauge how to discuss maybe the financials, all those type of things with me, right? And over time, I've pushed back on that. But in the beginning, I'll just say what it is to keep the conversation going, right? And the other thing you find out is, as you even get to that, start speaking maybe with the hiring manager, speaking with the team, is Canadians are generally nice people, well, at least to the extent that you can see, right? And so you can have very great interviews, the vibes are checking, it looks like, oh, this is done, and to tell you sorry, like you are literally sure. You can self-assess, right? You can tell when you had a very great chat with someone. I probably have 4 or 5 last stage interviews that didn't just progress, right? Excluding the ones the offers I took, right? And you would also deal with the world where people will just go quiet on you. You'll get no feedback, no response, absolutely quiet. So you find out those things there. They're just interesting differences, and I know them now, so I know better than to bother my head about it. But seeing people just ghost on me back then, I'm like, why is this person not calling back? Like, I like done something wrong, but hey, I don't know why they do it, but they do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Thankfully, though, I'm sure maybe we've all seen in the news that from January 2026, Ontario government has legislated or is going to mandate organizations to provide feedback to candidates, right? So you can't just ghost. You can't just ghost anymore. And I'm hoping that sort of helps, to at least give them some kind of relief and some kind of at least in that whole space. But Simi, just to piggyback what you just said now, like what would you say, or maybe I'll just carry on from there. How did you handle those rejections? So the ghosting, and obviously I'm sure it was like at the beginning it was really been nasty, been really like just very demotivating and all that. How did you handle it, and how did you even continue to keep going? Like after all of that, how did you keep going?
And can I just add to that, Simi? And also, if from a psychological, or should I say more emotional place, did you feel like, did I make a mistake coming to this country? Like my career was already like thriving. I was already senior level, and then I'm coming and basic roles are ghosting me. Did you start battling with those thoughts?
Yeah, thank you for those questions. And I was just saying earlier that in lighter note, the reason I kept going was because I needed money. So
the bills must be paid.
Your candid response, honestly. Love it.
The Nepo child. It's not the story I'll be sharing.
Listen.
But there's no matter how much I try to, encourage anyone about this, it's still going to sting, right? When those unfortunately starts coming, right? It's going to sting. But with time, some of the ways I coped better was I began to say to myself that in an ideal scenario, I'm only going to work for one company, right? So I need just one company to take a chance on me, right? If I apply 30 places in a day and 30 of them even said, come and interview with me, and 30 of them gave me an offer. I couldn't possibly work with the 30 of them, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
technically, it was either I was going to drop them or they would drop me. So I was kind of just psyching myself up without knowing. I just needed one person to take a chance on me. And that kept me going. I've heard a few friends say that they will create a folder in their email, they will call it any name, rejection or something. And then they would, set a rule that if you see opportunity in any email or any of those things, just move it to this folder. I don't want to see it in my box. I didn't do that. I just saw it and I just checked it and I moved on. And that stuff like this, the starting point for me in just helping me to deal with that. As I progress, one of the things that I have found that is very helpful is one of the biggest things you need in the process of searching for a job in this country is hope, right? It keeps you going. You don't want to get to a place where you feel defeated or you feel hopeless or you doesn't look like anything is coming. And one of the things that help you to kind of keep that going is when you have more than one conversation going on at every time, right? So that when one door closes, it will sting, but it will sting less. You can quickly focus on the next and you just put all your energy there. A strategy that I've seen in people who do that, I advise very strongly against it is a recruiter reaches out to you, you have first stage interview, you're happy, they move to the next stage, and you just feel like, oh, you know what, let me just chill and focus on this. My recommendation, double down, right? Because they can easily, anything can change. They can change their trajectory. Different things can happen that role will disappear. And what happens is this: if the role gets closed when you're so emotionally invested in it, then you will lose the momentum and the energy you need to continue to apply wanes completely. And it becomes harder to start, right? So you want to put yourself in a spot where you have more than one, conversation going on. And I know that takes time to happen. In my experience, and I'm going to come back to this, but I want to touch on something I said earlier that I think someone may be asking, that if you say you're applying to 38 day, by the way, there is no science to that number. It's just my number. But if you're applying to 38 day, you're going to run out of 30 after, by day 10, maybe you would have done 300. Are there really 300 jobs available for you in this your particular field that you're looking out for? But what I do is I recommend that have maybe call them supporting roles that you want. So very practical example, product management. The role I was looking at was senior product manager, right? But I also have a lot set up for product manager. I have a lot set up for partnership manager. I have a lot set up for even senior business analyst, right? Because they are adjacent roles to my core role. If I got something there, it will still just be fine. I can always leverage my experiences and I'm not making things up, right? So I ended up having about 6 or thereabouts, roles kind of set up. So what that does for you is that it ensures that you have a larger funnel to continue to apply into, right? And so that was very helpful. So, back to my explanation, I see that this helps a lot. And based on just what I have seen, I've gone through this circle full-time twice. My first role was contract, and, I had to go through that circle again. And my rough estimate is if you aggressively stay at it from week 6 plus or minus, the interviews will start flowing, and that's when to even double down, right? I maintain an Excel sheet because at some point back then I had multiple conversations. I wasn't sure who was who. I didn't want to start mixing people up together. So that really does help, right? And I would say that also speaking with people that you're in similar shoes helps, so that you don't think that there is anything special about you. I've had people say that they almost felt, is there something spiritual going on here? Because I don't think it should be this hard to get a first role, right? So you have all of that to do. And think about it, especially if you're a man, an African man. I don't even think you need to be an African man, just any man, right? There's that sense of responsibility from a home front point of view, and you're having to deal with that. So that was there. In my case, and to answer the question of Alekemi, I didn't necessarily feel that way. In all honesty, my wife was working from day one when we got to the country, so that pressure was not great. In my mind, I'm like, I would be able to eat, right? So that pressure was not crazy. And my motivation that took me out of Nigeria, I don't think what I was going through at the time was stronger than that motivation. So I don't consider It was not very, yeah. And I'm sure that's a nice way to say it. I imagine that most of our audience will figure out what that means, right?
Yeah.
So just saying that, well, I can eat, I can function. I was like, okay, you know what? We'll continue the battle the next day. But those things, I think they really do help in just staying well. With time, however, you would get very used to it. Now, in my last road year at least, I didn't even care. If I say unfortunately, I just say unfortunately for you too, right? Like if you don't want me to, that's okay by me, right? I don't care too much, right? I don't take it as personally, but I know initially it's going to hurt, in having deal with those things. Yeah.
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 And something that you said, Simi, I just wanted to crack a joke. You know when you
Yeah.
said like the motivation was like why again? Now it's still stronger. Like it's not enough for me to say I want to start regretting. I just really remember how when I first moved here and some people like some of my colleagues then will ask, oh, like why would I leave such a country with such great weather, like it's sunny all year round, everything like that, and why would I leave and come here? I remember and I'll be like, have you even not heard of have you never heard of Nigeria before? I know the problems that we deal with. But they realize that okay, truly, like they really sometimes don't know what the issues are. So I'll just put no problem. I'm not offended by that statement.
Yeah.
But I will respond and not give that feel of we're suffering. No, I'll just be like, oh yeah, I've already been okay, blah blah blah.
There were some things you touched on, Simi, that are I think are so important, and I hope that our audience, the viewers, take this away. Something that you said that I just wanted to reiterate and highlight is, do not rest on your laurels when one conversation is going on well. See, they can pop the balloon on you any goddamn time. I have been there, so like I can completely relate. And what you said about it then takes you a long time to get back on the grind is so true. This job, I was so sure I'd already gotten it. In fact, every day on my Google Maps, I'll be putting, how long will it take me to get to the office? If I drive, if I take the train, it was in Oakville. I was like, I'll do it, it's fine. And then these people just pop the balloon on me, and when I tell you I plunged into grief,
Wow.
And like you correctly said, it took me a while because I was like, where do I want to start from? I've been on this thing for 6 weeks, 7 weeks. I was so sure. I'd gotten to the last stage. I talked to everybody there was to talk to, and they said they were going with an internal candidate. So please don't rest on your laurels. One conversation is going on well, keep praying, like Simi said, the number one point he gave was hope. Keep hope alive, keep the faith. But my dears, please keep other conversations going as well. Still be aggressive with sending out your applications. It's like Simi said, it will still sting if or when they pop the thing on you, but at least you know that there are other hot conversations going on, right? And then what he said around looking at your expertise, like when you look at your skill sets, there are a number of things that your role has exposed you to. Look for other roles that are looking for those skill sets. Like Simi said, he's typically a product manager, but he already knows that he has shared expertise for roles in partnership management, business analysis, things like that. Again, not to overflow the points, but that's the way he increased his funnel. That's the way he doesn't run out of applications, like job ads to apply to. So I really hope you got those points, and I really hope you can incorporate them. The other thing I wanted to ask Simi is, yes, it took you a while, you found a job. I think you've changed jobs maybe once or twice now. Are there any specific things you can sort of put a pin on to say, this is how I know you've talked us through some strategies regarding applications and resume writing and interviewing, but in terms of positioning yourself to stand out, and I'll give some context. The immigration system, there are a lot of skilled workers coming in from, countries like ours, even more developed countries, etc. My point is, the market is competitive. It's competitive. That's the word. How did you position yourself to stand out? So there is the interviewing skills, there's the resume, positioning and whatnot. But are there any other aspects you can pinpoint to say these are certain things you did? We've heard people talk about networking. We've heard people talk about attending conferences. What's it called? Utilizing coaches and mentors and whatnot, referrals. But speaking to your own experience, what are some things that positioned you to stand out?
Yeah, thank you. And I'll touch on that. But I want to take this from, you were just speaking about networking and all those things now. And I have an opinion on it, and it's the opinion, I formed that opinion just based on my experience, which is, I would always say network to the extent that it's practical too. I would say get referrals. I would say get coaches. I don't think you should pay anyone to promise you that after 6 weeks they will do something that makes you get a job. I've had those people reach out to me and I'm saying, if you're so sure of what you're doing, like I said this to the woman, I said, why don't you get me the job and I'll pay you after? And, in my mind, I'm like, I'm from Lagos, so don't tell me this. Right. So to that extent, do those things, right? But I guess the way I'm going to with this really is don't rely on them as if they're going to, make any significant change. I think the markets we currently find ourselves it's very interesting times. Those things may not move the needle as they once would have, So you get it, but I think about them as nice to have now. I've gotten a number of offers, not one has come through any referral. I've gotten maybe 10 referrals, not one has called me from it. Not one has called to say, oh, we got your CV.
Wow.
Right. Yeah, these are referrals, right? Even including where my wife works. So that's there. Do it. Please don't think that I got a referral, so therefore don't worry, it's on lockdown. When I give you the referral, it's not even may not be even sure of their own standing. So just keep doing. Just be mindful of that. I guess that's the general gist. Now to the question itself, I think a couple of things play here. One of the things I'm a very strong advocate of is continue to when you find yourself in a spot in life where you don't have the elements that are the forces against you, you don't have a control over them, then focus on the things as much as possible that you have a control over. I remember when I came, taking this, product management crash course. It was like a 3-month course. It was somewhere downtown Toronto. I did that, and I wanted to get exposure into how do we even do product management in this country, and I had that on my resume. I did a couple of certifications, CSPO certification. Now, just to chat about this, product management. Any product manager that's what is sought to tell you that, I don't look at certifications and all of all those things. But I can tell you, I have seen that as a requirement in several job applications. Right. I come up in my conversations more than that, right? And so I went for that. I got even Scrum certified, I got Agile certified, I got whatever certified. And whatever I could afford. Now I know not everyone has a luxury, but I want you to think about it more from continuous development point of view rather than pursuing what is shown me. If you can afford it, do it. Now you would have heard me say about I went for my master's, right? And it's a conversation I've been nursing for a while to say I wanted to do my master's. And in that moment, I said, okay, I'm trying to get a job. I need a reputable school. So I ticked that off, a great course. And a program that was 1 year and I fit into folks that would work. So I wasn't thinking to take that program full time only to then get a job after. It accommodated for people that were working, even though a job never came until the end of the program. So that was there for me. And I've also heard people say, oh no, it's not also always about your certification is what you know. That is correct. But we are also in a very interesting market. There are plenty of people that know what you know, right? So you need to try and do more. And I'll be honest with you, I've been in conversations where someone would say, hey, you know what? oh, my son is trying to get into Queens. That's my school. And we start the conversation from there. And just by the fact that, oh, they see you are pursuing a postgrad or master's, whatever program, it just makes them feel a little more comfortable, a little more relaxed. I'm not saying it to necessarily turn the corner, but it makes the conversation easier to have, right? And you can reference some of those things in those conversations. Today, I have a version of my CV that is very analytics focused, but the analytics was because that was all my master's was in, right? If I didn't have that program, I wouldn't have the opportunity. And I've come more than once close to a role that I would have gotten in that space, right? Just because I got a training there, right? So I would never. I know different, people can say, hey, I don't have money for masters, I know, but there will always be something that you can meet at your level. There's always some training that you can find at your level and go for it, right? And so if you see my resume, I have all those things there. And in more than one interview, I'll see people say things like, oh, you've done quite a number of things. So, okay, let's talk about it, right? It gives them more room there are more things they can talk with you about, right? And you see, the way interview goes, just to touch on this, is people, they get comfortable with you in 5 minutes, thereabouts. Whatever happens after that 5 minutes, they are building on the way they feel from the first. There are ways you would have a conversation. When they ask you a question and say, can you take that again? Trust me, they are answering the question for you, and you just move on, right? But I got here by saying that those things give people, you can say it does not matter, but it does not hurt. That's my thinking. You may say that, oh, having a master does not matter. Okay, I hear you, but it can never hurt me. No one's ever going to say, oh, I'm not hiring because you don't have a master's degree, for sure. I mean, maybe they will say, oh, you're too qualified for this role, but not that I am not taking you because you have that, right? So I'm a very strong advocate of, seek further training, learning, and development. I also think that people should speak up more. And don't just keep to yourself if you're trying to find a job. First, there's just the psychological and emotional support that comes from talking to people, but there's even more, right? One way or the other, someone you're talking to may not land you a job, but they can help you with something else, right? I was saying earlier that my resume had gone through quite some edits, but they came has contributed to that. There is some lady I met, and just to talk about networking here as well. When I came, I joined Toronto Product Management Association. It's a not-for-profit organization, and shortly afterward, I started volunteering there. There is the Black Product Management Association for North America. I joined that. There's some guy called Lenny's newsletter. I joined that. Now, I've put my caveat earlier to say, don't rest on that as if it's going to turn anything, but it does not hurt, right? Now, it was when I joined the TPMA, I went through a mentorship program there. It was $50, so that was not going to kill me. And the person that became my mentor was the chairperson in that year for the TPMA, right? And so she also knew I was trying to find a role, and she was like, you know what, I think you should, let me connect you with this lady, come for this particular meetup. I went to the meetup, I spoke with her, very nice, pedant woman. And what she offered me was, send me your resume. I will block 30 minutes with you. Let's walk through your calendar, right? And she really went through it, took this, read things apart, removed this. Like, she made edits for me and sent it back to me. She didn't get me a job, but she helped me in that sense, right? And so what that did for me was, one of the things you don't want to deal with when you're applying is to start second guessing different things. It brought my resume to a point where I was confident in my resume. So I could comfortably say that I don't have a resume problem, right? Because they've gone through thorough peer review, or not even peer, some people, expert review, so to speak, right? So speak up, because people will have different values to you. I remember someone, and I say it very gratefully, who had spoken to his brother to refer me for a role. It wasn't the type of role I would want to do, but I appreciated that he was doing that for me, right? If nothing came and I got that role, well, whatever it was, it would bring the money in. I'd like to touch on one very quick point, and it just occurred to me now when you were asking a question around one of the things that I did that may have helped. I remember that when I was, many of those roles today, when you're asking, they would say, hey, what's your compensation range, or how much are you looking to earn? And I don't know if it's a trick question, but a lot of people struggle with that. And I've heard many recruiters tell me, I said, just give me your figure. It's not going to affect you in this interview, I'm like, that's not true. But just from my own experience, I'm not saying everyone is not truthful, but from my own experience, it's also a sorting out process, right? But one of the things, I had a light bulb moment, I think, Jan last year, and I said, you know what, I'm going to lowball myself on this thing. So let me give you an hypothetical example. Let's say that what I was looking out for was 100 grand. I said to myself, I'm going to put 85 grand, right? Just because I wanted to eliminate that, almost like doing hypothesis testing to say, you know what, let me just eliminate that this is also not contributing to why I'm being bounced, my rejection rate is so high. And interestingly, I'd gotten a job, that strategy did work for. And the way I knew it worked was after I got the offer, they upped the figure by a couple. So they gave me an offer for a particular. They upped the figure based on what I put on the application by 10 grand, right? So I pushed back because even with the 10 grand that they opted by, it was still short of what I would usually put. So I pushed back and said, "Hey, no, I'm looking for more." And they're like, actually, on your application, this was how much you put. And I've forgotten about that myself, right? I've forgotten that I put that figure, right? So the only thing I said in that moment was, well, fair enough. But as I understood the role better, I realized that the demand of the roles were more than I'd initially anticipated. And that's how I got myself out of that. And it still, did put some more. Now, the reason I say this is, I think for me it worked. I don't know for sure. Maybe other parameters also played a role, but I think for me it worked. And someone may say, oh, what if I do this and that's the amount they end up giving me? Well, what's the opportunity cost? You were not doing anything prior, right? So get the money. What did you lose? Nothing, because you were just sending CVs in one case. And secondly, is that you have the room to even still, to still negotiate, up, right? So, but going back to your question, just so that we can follow a thread here is, I think that upskilling works to the extent that you can do this. So there are people here that already have a master's degree, and I'm not trying to be I'm not trying to be sarcastic. If you do have a master's degree from Nigeria, you may know everything you know from any country, somewhere in Africa. Just you can tell that the school is not one that we live in a world where people are more concerned first about the reputation of your school more than whatever you even think you did, right? So yes, you can say you have a master's degree. It's master's from where? Right. And in what next? So if you find yourself in that space, don't say, oh, I have a master's degree anyway. If you tell them the school, they're just looking at you funny. Like, where is that school? I don't know it. So do everything you can do really to upskill, right? It doesn't hurt you at the end of the day. I think you plays out to your advantage.
Wow. Amazing. Thank you, Simi.
Amazing. So
yeah.
Like mic drop. We can just wrap this up. They can, and not everybody just goes on. This has done so much more than for. I know by doing this, like putting in out, but I'm blown. I'm just blown. I'm going to go back after now and just continue, like just reflect on a couple of things you said.
Yeah.
I am blown.
Yeah, I'm happy to share.
Wow. The last thing you said about trying out lowballing yourself to sort of eliminate that possibility that you weren't pricing yourself out of the race, if you like. It's mind-boggling. Like, so those questions are not there for fancy. They're there. There's a reason why
It's for decision.
Yeah, it's saving through. Wow. Yeah, Bukola, over to you.
Honestly, I know we're almost at time, but you've touched on so much. Like, I think the other questions we had, you already covered them. And one thing you said that I'm like is really like I'm in my mind is just expanding. And they can understand why this is really just has set up a light bulb in my head around just like upskilling doesn't hurt. Like it's. If you can do it, do it. But you're just talking about how during conversations with your interviews, it came up. So while it may not be a requirement listed, but it came up in the conversation, meaning that there's something else. And all we're trying to say here is that may just be a differentiating factor. Like may just be the only thing that stands there for somebody else. Because it's already a very tough market. So what else can you do? If you can do it, why not do it? And No, honestly, I'm taking that one away for sure. I'm going to just continue to reflect on it, but I'm not going to go any further here. I think
Yeah.
just last point to me, like, what would you just give, like, your final advice to anyone
Yeah.
listening? You've had such an incredible journey. It's been tough, but you've been resilient. Even the way you speak, like the way you're sharing it and all of that. You know, I could find like if there's some humor there, but you kept a very straight face. Almost like but it was so
That's
good.
Simi for you. You think he's a serious
Honestly,
person. You think he's a you actually think Simi is serious. He's not. This face. I don't know what this face is about.
I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about.
but honestly, it was just just beautiful hearing your story. But what would you just say, like final words, your advice to listeners that anyone going
Yeah.
through this tough season, right,
Yeah.
in terms of job search and all of that?
Sure. And thank you again for this opportunity. It's going to just really be a word of hope. I think that I've covered, from a strategy point of view, I've covered those things already. And hope from a point of view of just realize that whatever you're going through is not unique to you, right? I've shared my story of how I didn't imagine it was going to take that long time. But, and I know you can be in a space that looks like, am I ever going to get a job? I know many people who have stayed long to get a job. I don't know one person that has stayed infinitely without a job. So you would eventually get something. If you keep to the things you need to do, you're not lazy, you do your bit, right? You would eventually find something. So I think the most I can say is just be encouraged knowing that you're not in this alone, you're not going through anything that is novel. Most likely it's not spiritual, it's just the market being what it is. And that you would also have, in a very short while, you'll be able to come around and say, hey, you know what, this has worked for me. And I like to say that everything I have said today is not it's not, I'm not being prescriptive. The way I want you to think about it is what's very important for me as I think about things was trying to be as pragmatic as possible. So I was very deliberate in thinking through what I was trying to do at every time. And that's what I'm encouraging you to do, to think about what works for you. My strategy may not work, but the thinking will still be similar in many ways. Right. So be encouraged. It will come sooner rather than later.
Simi.
Amazing.
Thank you so much. I know we've I know we've run out of time. I wish we had more time. But this episode has been so loaded. When we have the opportunity to go through line by line and we're listing out the points, I'm sure we'll have like a page full. So thank you so much. Thanks for your vulnerability. Simi, if it's one person your story helps, we've made a change. Thank you so much. It's it's the weekend. You came out here, you've spent an hour of your time with us. We really appreciate it. Simi is a how do you say, he's a private person. But if you do need to reach out to him, this is now speaking to our audience, feel free to send us a DM. We can connect you with him to maybe ask for the questions, or if a mentorship relationship can be formed or whatnot. But just wanted to say thank you to all our listeners as well for being here, sticking with us. We really hope that you learn from Simi's story. And like his last word of hope, which is or his parting words, saying that just be hopeful, things will turn around, is the word I have for you as well. Kola, anything from your end before we go?
No, nothing. I think just to another offer another form of encouragement, and I just picking up what Simi said, and this should be a quote, by the way, is the fact that there's no one who has looked for a job that has stayed infinitely without finding one. So it will come. It will definitely come. I think that was so touching and very encouraging as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Bukola.
Thank you.
I enjoyed my chat. I hope someone finds value in this too.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.